Welcome back.
Yes, let's do it again.
I'm on. I'm just finishing up my lunch.
Go right ahead. We got another minute, look like here.
Dave, we got the Bernard team here with us today.
Yeah, we've been descended on.
About 8 of them.
Yeah, I think they got about 15 overall.
Really?
You got enough people get them around?
Making it happen. Put it that way.
Have they been down to see you yet, Dusty?
If they're coming tomorrow, I believe.
What's that, Dave?
The Bernard people, have they been down to see you yet?
They're coming tomorrow morning,
Tomorrow.
and then I think they're going to see Matt in the afternoon or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're here now, but they're going to come back tomorrow too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're supposed to be here, so anyway. I'm still trying to get this issue resolved with the county with these code blockage.
Bribery didn't work.
Huh?
They said bribery didn't work.
I don't know. I think that might be what the deal is going to end up being. Who knows?
Okay, Lindsay, are we ready to start back?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we will kick this off. Hope everybody had a great lunch. It was it's cold outside. It's not even 60 here today, so
Yeah.
What a nice day.
Yeah.
The learning executive tool. So we're going to go over tool and techniques for process improvement. So analyzing data. So analyzing, as you know, is part of the tools. This is where we gather our information. And so there's 2 sections that we break down analyzing data into. And so it's display data and analyzing data. So it's just those are 2 sections that are used. Next slide. So use the root cause analysis for identifying underlying issues. So root cause analysis tools identify the underlying issues leading to a process inefficiency, a defect, or a failure. So common root cause analysis tools are the 5 whys. So that one's my personal favorite. And so it's always interesting when you use the 5 whys, because it usually narrows down to there's no standard work, or we'll go over that in a couple slides, but the 5 whys are very effective. The fishbone diagram, and a root cause verification matrix, solutions selection matrix, cost benefit analysis, and pilot testing. So these are some of the tools that are used for analyzing.
Okay, so when we talk about the 5 why method, we're asking the 5 why techniques, which involve asking why repeatedly 5 times until the root cause of the problem is uncovered. When we look at this, it's simple and effective method, encourage deeper thinking. And that's where we want to drive this for people to really dive in and think deeper into the process to prevent teams from settling superficial solutions from that viewpoint. And when we combine this data-driven tool, such as a Pareto chart, team can focus on areas that yield the greatest impact. Next. Okay, here we would call the Pareto principles that we've talked a lot about, and we used as an example the engineering team. Slow response to work order requests was the top issue, 25%. Using the 5 whys method would truly help us get into that. And the problem statement, we've defined that we need a problem statement to determine what we're focusing on. But if we go and use this kind of as an example, using the 5 whys, we're saying why the engineering team is slow to respond to work order. And we kind of answer that. And then we say, why is there a backlog of work orders? Keep driving it until we say, why are there so many urgent, unplanned maintenance tasks? Why is critical equipment not being maintained regularly? And in this example, why is the preventive maintenance schedule not being followed consistently from that viewpoint? So I just want to touch base on that. Any comments, questions about the 5 whys? Because as Dave said, I agree too. This is one that I enjoy using as an effective tool.
Has anyone used this before? We talked about it during our project management class. So have any of you been able to since then?
Yeah, I've used it and not known there was a thing for it.
Yeah, not to this extent. I mean, I definitely asked the why questions, but not this accurate or detailed.
And you might recall it says 5 whys, but sometimes it doesn't take 5, but almost always once you've asked why 5 times, you've been able to get to the root cause. But you might find that it only takes 2, to figure out what the root cause is. But the idea is that you just continue drilling down until you can't anymore. And usually 5 whys is enough for that.
Okay. So this here is just a reminder, it's important that we put together a root cause verification matrix to understand what we're dealing with here. And once again, 5 whys can be a great contribution, or even using the fishbone diagram will help us to test and validate our solutions.
All right, solutions selection matrix. So this is one of the tools that we use in order to kind of like evaluate and prioritize solutions. So that matrix, the tools or metrics that they use in this tool are cost benefit, feasibility, impact on a problem, and alignment with organizational goals. So, and in this tool, they score each option in order to give some data in order to make a decision. And so the solutions, this is an example of what that looks like. So like implement a clear system for tracking. It gives you your different variable matrices to tie to that. Upgrade monitoring systems. It gives you, so scored the highest overall, indicating it might be the most effective and sustainable option for addressing the root cause while being relatively feasible and timely to implement. So this is just a way to prioritize with this tool. I'm not sure how else to say that.
Okay, so when we talk about the benefit analysis, what I have discovered, not every situation that I have dealt with of a process excellence I can derive a cost benefit. There's other benefits that is associated, but in this case, in most cases, we try to derive what the cost benefit analysis is to draw the conclusion of the total expected cost of a solution and with the total anticipated monetary benefits. In doing that, we evaluate the solution by reduced time spent on tasks, lower error rates, and reduce waste and resource consumptions of some of the key primary areas that we evaluate.
Okay, and then pilot testing. So this is interesting. It's kind of a description that is pretty self-identifying. So pilot testing is used to maybe make a small sample of what you're trying to do and roll something out in a controlled environment. And so you can identify potential issues, evaluate your effectiveness, get feedback, and make any adjustments and see if there's any risk involved, which you're identifying.
Okay.
So down on this fishbone diagram, so this is referred to as, it says cause and effect diagram. Use the tool to brainstorm and categorize potential causes of problems into these groups. So this structure approach helps teams explore all possible angles so they don't overlook critical factors that could be contributing to the issue. So when you look at this, it's the same thing. So you got your stated problem. And so the cause when it comes to machines, when materials, so you would have little identifiers at each one of these fish bones. Like underneath materials, you might have, maybe something's not available or not readily available, or you don't use it, or, there's all kinds of different possibilities of using the fishbone in order to identify any deficiencies or actually pluses as well. So it doesn't just have to be a deficiency. And then in this example, it is outdated so this is actually just given the examples of what each of these would, and the definition of what manpower, materials, machines, just kind of like we kind of walked through that a little bit. But over here on the effect, it says the engineering team's delayed response to work orders affecting 25% of all maintenance requests has led to a significant increase in complaints, with 40% of staff expressing dissatisfaction with the response team. So this would be a typical, okay, so how come? Looking at manpower, when you identify whatever it is, here they did frequent interruptions, overworked staff, low staffing. I mean, there could be different things, outdated monitoring systems for materials, machines, also critical equipment not maintained regularly, unexpected equipment breakdowns, preventative maintenance not being followed. So it's kind of easy to capture how this fishbone kind of operates.
Both groups will be using this fishbone diagram as part of their root cause analysis in the group activity. So think about the problem that you are trying to solve as a group, and think about what manpower, materials, methods, and machines might be contributing to that problem, and then what the root cause could be, and then how could you create a positive effect? Like, what would success look like? Does anyone have questions about this, knowing that you're going to use it for your homework assignment and group activity?
Are we always using the 4Ms, or is that just, could it be anything there? The machine, manpower, materials?
Can you think of another? I mean, that's a great question. Can you think of something that would be a potential cause that is not listed here, that wouldn't be classified in one of these groups?
Money.
Philosophy, methodology.
So methods is captured for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, it's right there. You're right.
Money, so money could be another form of materials. So if you want to think about materials as resources, but if you want to add money, you can definitely do that.
Mm.
Sometimes money transfers into manpower or machines or materials. So if you can, okay, with money, what would you buy? Manpower, machines, or materials?
Yeah.
Great. Any other comments or questions on this fishbone diagram before we move on? Okay.
Okay, so we're going to do a group activity. Think back to your workflow, tasks, and processes that you can improve. And look like we're going to, Lindsay, we're going to break out into groups again here.
Yep, you are going to complete section 1 and then complete the plan section. Remember that in your PowerPoint slides, you have the fishbone diagram. So you can copy and paste or take an image of that, or you can just fill it out separately, or whatever you want to do. It's your creative license, but make sure you're going through the fishbone diagram to get down to your root cause, and then start to work on your plan to address that root cause. So you'll just keep working on your worksheet that you were before in the same groups.
Okay,
I will assign you back into the same group.
What's our time frame here?
Um, let's do a check-in in 20 minutes. Does that sound reasonable?
yes, that'll work.
Now that no one's hungry, can think a little clearly, more clear.
Let's hope.
Okay. So 20 minutes, we'll check in.
That put us 135, 136.
136.
They did good. I had to, I think they were finishing up. Seth had a little thing, but yeah, they were having fun doing it.
Good.
Oh, I wonder if I was talking to them and they couldn't hear me.
Oh,
I might have. I might have having a mute on that last.
I don't know. I guess I will, I'll bring back everyone.
They were finished in that,
Okay, I'll close the
my
room.
team, so I don't know if you can dissolve them or how that works.
Yeah, they've got 60 seconds to come back. And we'll have a spokesperson from each group present their PDSA.
I'm sorry.
We'll have a spokesperson from each group present their PDSA through the plan section.
Hey, Brian.
Sorry, trying to hit it.
All right, welcome back. Does anyone need more time to get through the plan section of their PDSA? Okay, either through like Hunger Games styles or another method to have a spokesperson from each group to present their PDSA through the plan section.
So in the group I was in, Seth was doing he was doing the documentation and he had an issue right there at the end. He had to jump on the phone. I don't know if anybody else documented what Seth had.
So he's got a. No.
Okay, so by default, we will start with the other group.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Give me 1 second. I'm finished typing something for
Yeah.
our group. Just give me 1 second.
all right.
Or I can talk about
Bolts.
it if you want and not share my screen.
But listen, we'll support you. We can chime in.
Okay. So I guess as with everybody, Infor and the PO process is top of mind. And so we felt like this was a very, very ideal problem to streamline the process and put together the right teams that can solve for it. And so the authors of this team and this process would be stakeholders to include project managers, facility managers, and our purchasing department. What are we trying to improve? I'm just going to read this out. The rollout of Infor Technologies has caused significant delays in our everyday PO processes. The goal would be to reduce turnaround time from requisition to PO from days to hours. Identify steps from the requisition to PO delivery to vendor that will improve time and process efficiencies. The goal is to implement the new process within 30 days. How will we know that this change is made an improvement? Because of the time, right? It's going to take hours instead of days to get a PO created and sent to the vendor. And what IDEA thought to get this started is to put together the team of the project manager, the facility managers, somebody from purchasing, having a vendor there and a business owner, and go step by step from each person's lens and find out where the bottlenecks are to make those improvements and identify those steps. That's all I got.
Does anyone have any questions? or- Great job, Melissa.
Hmm.
Does
Go
anyone,
team.
Thanks. Melissa.
anything to add or clarify? What is the plan?
Well, Lindsay, we had started putting together our fishbone, going through the various causes and everything, and we were just now starting to talk about the plan.
Oh, so you do need more time because you didn't get through the plan section.
Right.
Were we supposed to get through the plan and the fishbone in that amount of time?
Mhm.
Oh,
I think-
okay. I didn't
We're
realize. I thought we were
overthinkers.
checking back in 20 minutes to see where we were.
Yeah, we did, and we checked it, and it turns out we need more time. Okay, so the fantastic start. You've gone through your fishbone diagram. So
Yeah.
you will know that you have hit your milestone when you made it through your plan section.
Mhm.
Did the next group get through their plan section?
I did write down what we went over, when Seth was showing it. We got use ATG rounding tool to gather real-time data and create work orders during EOC rounding in order to reduce MUTA and improve regulatory compliance. Manpower, multidisciplinary hospital leaders, needing technicians availability and outside vendors for issues outside of staff scope. Tools, ATG software, work order systems. The material ATG rounding tool on iPad or iPhones, supplies for repairing findings, and inventory in-house. The methods, ATG data and tracking the findings.
Okay, that
That's
sounds
all I
like,
have.
okay, so did you get through the plan phase? Do you have a plan?
That plan statement was the first statement that he made.
Oh,
That was, the plan.
Yeah, the use ATG rounding tool to gather real-time data and create work orders during EOC rounding in order to reduce MUTA and improve regulatory compliance.
All right, so then you're gonna need a plan. So when I talk to this group, that statement still sounds a little different than what we landed on. So that sounds like you're gonna use a rounding tool to help reduce the response time. So there's a part in the conversation where are we reducing the time it takes to document the finding discovered during rounding? Or this is what I thought we landed on, the time it takes to respond to the work orders. So
Can they not be one, I'm sorry, can they not kind of coincide with each other somehow in a statement?
there are two different problems. So one problem is a documentation. So why is it taking so long to document and create a work order? And the other problem is why is it taking so long to close out those work orders?
How's your arm been feeling?
It's all right, man. It's, you know, I think it's been pretty well.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
And the last thing I heard, but this was again, in hungry brains were talking. That it was
I was not,
the second one. It was the second one of we're going to reduce the time it takes to close those work orders. So basically a work order has been opened,
neck surgery. Like I
documenting and finding discovered.
Lindsay, you able to mute Seth?
So you're welcome. Discovered an issue during rounding. We've documented it through a work order process. So now it's been documented. So now we're going to shorten the amount of time it takes to close out that work order. Are we agreeing that that's the problem, or do we want to go back to the original problem of the time it takes to create the work order?
Just from my experience with ATG, is this a real life scenario, or we're just kind of coming up with this scenario? If this is real life, I don't know where the problem would be putting the work order in, because it's going to act just like any other system. It's going to put it in. It's going to go to the work order system. It's going to be there. Now, at that point, if somebody looks at it or somebody gets it, and when they respond, that's what I would say is where we need to improve at. And
Yeah,
in the communication on why it's not being done, because a lot of times I'll walk on a unit when doing this rounding, and they're like, yeah, we put work orders in for these two items. Like, this happened yesterday. I put 2 work orders in. Okay, nobody's communicating with them why it's not being done or why it's so. This is not an ATG problem. It's hey, let's get the work orders done. Or if they're not being done, communicate with the leaders through the work order system, which you can. It's all in there. So, sorry, I kind of got off there. But, so.
No, I think you're accurate. And I think that was part of what we discussed too, because I think our scope is that. It is all of that. It was reducing the waste, and it was also improving our regulatory compliance. And so part of Fishbone was to identify trends and risks that were out there for regulatory compliance. That means gathering data from prior mock surveys or prior surveys. So gathering some of that data and being able to use that, because that was our statement of trying to improve our regulatory compliance. So
Well, that's now a third problem that's been introduced.
right, well, that was part of the plan from the start.
So then,
that
yeah,
was
it
part
would
of
be
the statement.
It would be ATG then. Yes.
Right, I'm sorry.
That's how we track it, is through ATG. So it's all repeated. So our statement, our plan is so general that we can't narrow down on a single, what are we going to work on, is what I'm hearing.
Brian's gonna keep us straight.
or confuse the matter even more. So I thought maybe, and if Seth's back with us, I thought originally it was somewhat of being able to not everybody's using the tool. So to get the tool into everybody's hand to use it, that then allows the rest of this to happen. I think sometimes we're rounding, but we're not using the ATG tool to input the information that we're finding completely. Is that a fair statement with our group?
Is that the problem we want to solve? Is not everyone is using the tool?
We want to solve all the problems.
Yeah, we want to solve all the problems.
Cool. We're gonna pick one. We're gonna start with one.
Okay, Lindsay, you pick it for us.
I think Sean that's why we were wondering where you were in the beginning of this. Because when we came up with this, you were busy working, and so this is when we needed you. And yeah, that's exactly what the problem is the stuff's not getting done.
Okay.
I agree.
So just to be, and you will need to update your problem statement. Okay. So I'm gonna say what I heard, and we're gonna get alignment. And if we have alignment, then we're gonna work on fixing that one problem.
Okay.
Problem that I heard Sean articulate is we're reducing the amount of time from when the work order is opened related to a finding discovered during environmental rounding using the ATG tool to the time that work order is closed. Work order open, work order closed, shortening that time.
Correct.
Okay, so your fishbone diagram should say, okay, what are the causes that get in the way of shortening that time span from open to close? What's getting in the way? So you can get down to the root cause, and then you can develop your plan around that root cause. There is a transcript. So if you would like to open up the transcript that is live right now in Otter, which you should show on your, like, up at the top of your screen, it will take all of the words that were said and you're feel free to copy and paste that into any of your documents, if that helps. Okay, so other thoughts and questions before you go into your breakout groups again, so you can go through the plan phase. Lovely.
Yeah. Now, Melissa, I don't see that plan we provided them a template.
We did. They've got a fishbone
Okay.
diagram template. They've got that
Okay.
PSA that they should.
Yeah, we,
Yeah.
yeah, we just hadn't got down to the implementation of the plan on that Word document.
Okay, all right.
Okay, 20 minutes. Hey,
Hey, Lynn. So I think we're getting ready to come back. We narrowed down the plan a little bit,
okay.
so it's not quite as broad of a plan. So did we have some time, or did you want to pop in there and take a look at their plan, or you want to just wait?
Yeah, I'll pop in there and look. So they're in the first one. Okay. Hello. Is there anything I can do to help? How are we doing?
I think we've improved it. Well,
Have you been able to put together your plan yet?
oh, Brian, that's what she was.
That's
talking
what,
about our
that
plan.
was step 2, I guess.
Okay. Do you have the Word document?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so you're gonna put, you're gonna fill out section 2, which is the plan section.
Okay.
So you've done your root cause analysis through the fishbone diagram. And then now you're going to say, okay, like, how are we going to reduce the time it takes? So, and I saw that you have like using the ATG rounding tool. So you're saying just simply by using the ATG rounding tool, that's going to reduce the amount of time the work order is open to the time the work order is closed?
That's what I was trying to get to. There's something missing there.
So what it would do is from the time that the finding was found to the completion time, that would be reduced.
But that is different than the time. No, am I, do you, yeah, that's great.
It's never good enough for you, Lindsay.
I know, well, yeah. That's process improvement. So, okay, so what you're saying is, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. The time that the work order is open to the time that it's would be closed would be reduced by using the ATG rounding tool to create the work order. So just simply by using the ATG rounding tool, we're going to shorten the closeout time.
As opposed to writing it down, and yes, it will improve that.
Okay. So we're just really eliminating that early part, right, of how the work order gets created. Just take it. So what you've done is you've identified a way to reduce work order creation time, which therefore reduces the overall work order completion time. But we're not so much focused anymore on the time the work order is open until the time it's closed. Really what we've done is identified a way to reduce the amount of time the work order is opened.
And track it.
Okay, is this being done now? Where people are using the ATG rounding tool?
Not everyone.
Okay.
Partially.
Okay, and so why wouldn't people do this? Like, what would be the reasons why they're not doing this?
They don't have access.
Okay, why don't they have access?
They're not aware. There's a couple reasons why.
So they don't have access because they're not aware they have access?
They're not,
Or how it works.
some people aren't aware that it has that function. Some people
Don't
may
even
not have access to it.
Don't have the iPad. Don't have the tool. Like, so my IP girl, she writes everything down, versus myself, who has the iPad.
Okay, so in this case, she isn't using the iPad. Why is she not using the iPad?
She doesn't have one.
Okay. and she doesn't have one because she hasn't asked for one or funding isn't approved, like why doesn't she have an iPad?
I haven't the foggiest idea why she didn't have one.
It's in our materials list.
Okay, so this is, so I'm, you can see like I'm using the 5 whys to get down to like what the actual problem is. So if she doesn't have an iPad, why doesn't she have an iPad? If people aren't using the feature, maybe they have an iPad, but they're not using the work order creation feature. Why aren't they doing that? Is it a training problem? Is it, like, is there something else at play?
To be honest with you, at Presbyterian, we had multiple iPads. Well, for some reason, some of them gone missing, but you can do this on your phone. You can do it on your iPhone. Some people don't want to put it on their iPhone, but if they have a company phone, they can you do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people want to put it on their phone. I've never had an issue with it on my phone. So yeah, there's no reason why she shouldn't be able to do it online. Why she's doing it by hand and it's causing the delay. Like I don't understand that.
I think maybe it's a lack of a standard being put out there to say this is what we do, you know.
Okay, so in that case, the plan would then to develop a standard operating procedure. You know, so if it's a problem that you don't have a standard, then document what your standard operating procedure is, which would include maybe a job aid of, our standard operating procedure is that you have ATG on a mobile device. It could be a company issue phone or iPad. When you must use that handheld device to perform rounding activities. When a finding is discovered in the field during rounding, you must use ATG to document the finding and create a work order from ATG. And then you can provide screenshots and even like hands-on training to show them how to do that. And then have a sign off saying that, yep, I acknowledge that I'm aware of the SOP, I participated in the training. And that's like your PDSA, you know, like you've identified, okay, I think just people, we don't have a standard. We've created a standard, trained people on the standard, documented it, and then we can go and check and see if that was the issue.
I like it.
Did you just say we filled this portion of the class?
No, I would never say that. I would never. And if
So we're
it,
developing a standard.
yeah.
So do we change our fishbone or keep our fishbone?
So the cause so cause and effect, right? Cause and effect is, you've been talking about cause and effect since like primary school. So the cause is we don't have a standard. The effect is people are documenting work orders in different ways. Okay, so like we don't have a standard, so that's a method. We don't have a standard operating procedure. Like we have the tools, we have iPads, we have a software, we have ATG, we have manpower, we have people who are rounding, we have an ATG checklist. The problem, the cause, is we don't have a standard for how to use those tools. And the effect is that there's too much variety and therefore time. And so then their plan is to address that. We're going to create an SOP. This is what it will include. This is how we're going to train people on it. This is how we'll verify that people have gone through that training. And then we'll see if that was really the cause. And if it wasn't, then you'll go back to your root cause analysis. Okay, it actually was that people didn't have iPads. And so why don't they have iPads? Well, they didn't ask for one. They didn't know they could ask for one. We didn't have enough money. You know, you sort of like go through the same process.
Yeah, I think sometimes that we have tools that certain people aren't comfortable with using, so they don't necessarily roll them out because they're maybe a little scared of them for that change.
Are you showing me an example of a work order for a fire door?
Oh, sorry, no. I just got a quote. I had to check it.
I thought you were showing me how it works.
Is that a roll-up door, Seth?
Yes, expensive one too.
Okay, I'm gonna get us out of this room. So I'm gonna leave the room. But before I do, I mean, and what I just said, is that making sense or
No,
do you,
absolutely. No, it totally did. You brought it all together for us. Thank you.
I hope so. You're welcome.
You're a genius.
That's not even half true, but I appreciate you being patient with me. All right, I'm gonna leave the room. I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks.
Bye, Lindsay.
Sorry, I was getting stuff done.
No, you're good. I'm gonna go to the other breakout room.
Did you fix them?
What we landed on was they switched it again. So when I got back in there, they were saying, no, it's the time it takes to create the work order. And so we want them to use the ATG rounding tool to create the work order. And I was like, okay, that's different than what we talked about, which is the time the work order opens to the work order closes. So if we're really just talking about the time it takes to discover the finding and create the work order, that's a different process. So I went through the 5 whys with them of like, okay, why are people not using the ATG tool to open a work order? Well, and then so Brian's like, I think it's just because we don't have a standard. Why don't we have a standard? And because he's, so we were talking about like why some people are using iPads or not. And so I said, okay, could we not create a standard operating procedure that we're going to use the ATG rounding tool? That anyone performing rounding activities needs to have ATG on a mobile device issued by Novant Health. It could be a phone or an iPad. They're going to use their mobile device and the ATG rounding checklist to document findings and create work orders. And then you're going to provide screenshots on how to do that. And then you're going to go and have like hands-on training with everyone who performs rounding activities, and then have them sign off that they have seen the standard operating procedure and participated in the training. And then if it continues to happen and people aren't using the handheld devices and the ATG rounding tool, you would sort of like start over and say, okay, it wasn't that we didn't have an
You
SOP.
kind
What?
of just went through the whole process improvement down to the actions and the whole works.
Yeah. So that's where I left them. They were laughing because they were like, you're never satisfied. I'm like, no, I like genuinely want
Mhm.
to help, but it's like it's difficult to get your head around, I think, because there's so many like factors involved.
There is, and everybody thinks a little different. So
Yeah.
it's always fun when you got a group. How does that process go?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna check on the next group to see how they're
Okay, yeah, yep, absolutely.
everyone left. I can hear you.
We took a 5-minute break, Lindsay.
Oh, okay. You went rogue. I love it. That was really wise. How much more time do you have on your 5-minute break?
Only a couple minutes.
Okay. All right. So at 2:20, or would you be prepared to come back to okay, and then present your plan?
Yes.
All right. I'll see you there.
My bad, I hit the wrong button.
Okay, the other group took a 5-minute break, which I would like to offer to you as a 3-minute break.
Yes.
At 2:20, I'm going to bring them back into this meeting room, and then be prepared to have a spokesperson to present your plan, okay?
Sean,
Can we pick Lindsay? Can we pick Lindsay for that? Hey, Sean, what time did you say we had to leave?
2:45.
Oh, I thought it was like now.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to the bathroom now, so.
Hey, Lindsay. You're on mute.
Hey.
Hey, I was in a conversation, just off the record, with Wake Forest University.
hmm
And I was talking to one of their HR development people, and I mentioned, she said, "Oh, I mentioned this class and everything." She said, "Oh, I've been tasked with doing something like that." I said, "Well, you need to reach out to Legacy, and I mentioned your name and I gave her your email. So
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard I don't know if you heard anything back from that. I know it's not healthcare, but they do similar things, as far as
That's,
maintenance and campus.
oh yeah, no, that's really helpful. Thank you. I'm also working, I'm on the advisory board for the American Society for Healthcare Engineering, ASHE.
Mhm.
And I'm working with them to develop leadership programs, and also we're now doing the MEC certifications to certify mechanics and senior mechanics through ASHE. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through partnerships with trade schools and colleges and universities. So that's probably our big focus for 2025, is partnering with higher ed and post-secondary schools to develop training and certification programs.
Yeah. Well, I gave you guys a free plug.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. See you.
Okay. Are you doing-
Okay,
Yeah.
Lindsay, Melissa has to step off in a few minutes. Can we go first to
You can.
present?
You can. I don't, and the other group, some of them just stepped away and haven't returned yet. So by all means,
Okay, okay,
go first.
all righty.
Casey, you might be the spokesperson for your team. Better watch out.
I'm gonna have to pass on that one. All this stuff they talking about, I'm just listening in. That's why I was telling, Sean, this ATG thing they're talking about. I've heard of it. I've never had to deal with it. Never seen it. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in the dark on all this that they're talking about. I'm just going along with it.
I'm sorry. We ought to show you the ATG rounding tool, though. I'm sure you see all sorts of things when you're out and about making repairs.
Casey, I believe you were in my EOC rounding 101 class, so don't
Dude,
use
that was
as
like
an
a year and a
excuse.
half ago. Don't even bring that up.
Hey, don't use that as an excuse, man. I'll send
Year
you
and a
the
half, year and a
I'll
half
send
ago, I
you the
couldn't even tell
slides
you what
again.
you talked about.
That was amazing. Okay. All right. Group number 1, what do you have?
Okay,
Are we group 1?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are.
Okay,
we
sorry.
are.
All right. All right, so I'm presenting the plan. And so, with our fishbone diagram, we really ultimately discovered the root cause of the problem is manpower. And it's specifically with misalignment of teams and also training when entering service contracts and POs. So getting into the thick of it after going through the different methodologies, we decided that was our main root problem. And that this would be assigned to that M4 implementation team. And again, we wanted to work through these issues within 30 days. But that is subject to change. What changes are being proposed for the trial and what do you predict will happen? So we're proposing additional training and realignment of the staff. In that starting with this root cause, we don't necessarily need to bring on more manpower, but put the right people in the right places, and this will resolve some of the time frame and bottleneck issues we're seeing. We'd like to get this trial started sooner than later, and like we said, that team that trialing it would be, facility managers, project managers, purchasing, and business owners, right? And everybody, having different issues with the same process. And then what sources are needed, right? It's time, it's training, it's people. Again, the root cause being manpower. When we gave it a 30-day trial length, we said, a week to pull the team together, go through the cause and the issues and the whys, right? Trial out the efforts for 2 weeks with the realignment of manpower, the training, and the issuing of requisitions and service contracts. And then after that period of time, we'll look at the data, and the data would be historical data from those folks in purchasing and project managers and the facility managers who are entering the requisitions and the POs, how long the process was for them before the pilot, and then during the pilot, we would track the time from requisition to PO delivery. And so from there, hopefully we would solve for the bottlenecks and delays in this process.
That's fantastic. Okay, so I have a couple of ideas as you continue to flesh out your PDSA, and I know you have to go. We will have another breakout so everyone can finish the do, study, and act sections of their document. Something for your group would be to incorporate the Kanban for sure, so you can identify at what point in the process are the bottlenecks occurring, like where do you specifically need to allocate resources, and even to track POs from time of open to approval and getting to the right people, like where are they in the process? And that'll very clearly display, okay, they're getting like stacked up right here. And then the other thing when you're looking at your implementation plan is to do one of those, I don't know if you need like a full FMEA, but think about what threats would prevent success. So what are the possible things that could go wrong? So maybe the right stakeholders aren't able to join, you can get people in the meeting or adoption of the process. What job aids or communication do you need? Just think about anything that might disrupt success or slow down success so that you can create an action plan specifically for those threats.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Does anyone else from that first group have comments or questions?
I think Melissa did a good job recapping it. So it was good dialogue from everyone. So I think it was good. And we simplified what I think the key to all of this was our state problem statement. We understood that we had to narrow it down what our true focus is going to be. And I think we did a good job at doing that.
Excellent. I think group 2 had a great time narrowing down their problem statement. And I look forward to hearing about it from Sean. I believe you were elected as spokesperson.
Sean, you're on mute.
We can't hear you yet. I feel like this is intentional.
Here we go. No. Okay.
No. I was like, you are so clever.
Seth, can you share your screen so I can see what you wrote? Seth, you there?
Steph, you're on mute.
Okay.
All right. So we, after much discussion, and I guess this is, I had to take my emotions out of this because it was somewhat fictitious of some sort. Okay. But we did the fishbone on ATG rounding, and forgive me if I'm repeating stuff, but I'm just going to kind of start from the beginning. And how to create work orders during the rounding. There is a cat in here. Yeah, I'm at my mother-in-law's house, my wife's parents. That's why. But anyway, stop texting. Work orders for EOC rounding, improved completion time for manpower. Am I supposed to go through all this, Lindsay? I want to make sure I'm not wasting everybody's time.
Just if you want to just in brief talk about
Okay.
like your plan. And I don't know if you evolved that since the standard operating procedure that we talked about, but maybe just communicate, okay, we've narrowed down the problem statement and this is the plan to address it.
All right. Yeah. So we narrowed it down to manpower. We got everybody that's on the rounding that needs to be there. And if not, we have vendors ready. Again, our iPad, iPhone for rounding for ATG, and then inventory that we already have in house. Some machines, the tools, the ATG software, which apparently not everybody's utilizing it. For rounding, I think everybody should be utilizing it. If you're not rounding, I think the work order system's fine. There's no issues in my opinion. Again, this is fictitious apparently. So we want to use the data to track findings and identify trends. And whenever we do all this, it's going to develop, if everybody's on the same page when it comes to rounding, it's going to develop a good plan to where all the administration can look at that and say, they can develop stats for what is continuously being neglected or being broke, or for compliance, what doors are having issues. It can be anything that can take all the data and give it to everybody and say, all right, this is what we need to concentrate on. Give it to staff on the unit, say, hey, you need to concentrate on this whenever you work and pay attention to this type of stuff. So whenever Joint Commission does come, we're not scrambling like we always do, in which we will no doubt be scrambling. But this would help. And that's why we round, because it does help. So in final, using ATG it should improve time, hopefully, and so people aren't using notepads. And again, sometimes whenever I round, I don't know if everybody even puts stuff in ATG, because I think they fix stuff on the spot and they don't even follow up. But I think to have stats, I think everybody needs to put everything into ATG, regardless of whether you fix it, because they have the capability to put work orders in there and say you corrected it on the spot, and it won't go anywhere. It'll stop right there in the system. It'll still show, but it won't go send to anybody. It'll just say, all right, you corrected it, but there was a problem. So anything else that I left off my group?
I think you and the cat know that.
Great job, Sean.
Yeah, thanks.
Seth, do you want to keep these? Okay, there we go. All right. Matt, Daniel, I'm curious, you teach this class. So yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, trying to get other leaders to or if everybody's using the iPad, and you fix stuff on site, there's a tab for that, and to notate that it was fixed on site instead of just not putting anything in the ATG rounding. But getting leaders to I don't know if that's possible to get leaders to actually sign up for this class and not limit it to, the techs or even the Casey Meltons that need to do it again, I mean, I don't, just throwing it out there. But yeah, me and Todd, we will teach this class in all the markets.
We discussed a standard operating procedure such that ATG is required for rounding, like that's part of a standard. And then also findings would be documented on a handheld or mobile device, and that can be your like your Navon issued phone or iPad, but you must use a Navon issued mobile device, Navon issued ATG rounding tool to document findings and create work orders. And then also inclusive of the SOP screenshots or whatever, job aid is needed to explain this is exactly how to do it. And then have training, which would just, I would imagine, scaffold into what you're already doing of like, okay, this is SOP. We're going to do some practice rounding. It was not the teacher. I co-signed, I taught him. He went through my train the trainers class. I had seen him teach. It's not the problem. and then go and have everyone sign off. Yep, I've seen the SOP. Yep, I have access to the job aid. And I've gone through the training as documented. And if the problem persists, then you sort of have to start over again. Okay, well, it wasn't we didn't have a standard, it was something else. Okay.
Hey, Matt.
yeah.
Well, so last year they took away people's phones and said, we'll pay you for, $30 or whatever it is for access, for your bill, whatever. So a lot of people don't have it. And I know a lot of sentiment is, well, I'm not putting it on my phone because I was in law enforcement. And it's just like, I ain't putting it on my phone because they can subpoena my phone. I ain't going to see my personal phone. So I get it that people don't want to put it on their phone. But I also see that they're not wanting to buy a bunch of iPads to be used like once a week and probably get lost because nobody's going to keep track of them. So there is some kind of disconnect. And I do feel for Casey and Todd. I don't know what the solution is. I don't think there's a big initiative to push these leaders to use it. I just think they say, EOC, comes around once a week, they'll handle it. And that's it. So, because I got I updated everybody's, every unit last week or the last couple weeks with all the correct managers and directors. So they'll get this. And I don't even think they know what they're looking at, to be honest with you. They'll probably come in their email and they'll be like, oh, okay, another email. And it's just, again, up until 6 months until Joint Commission gets there, everybody just kind of blows it off. So, and then once Joint Commission comes, it's like everybody's frantic. So,
well, and I think that's part of the difference in a small community hospital and a Presbyterian. You got a lot more leaders in that building, a lot more people to try to get involved, a lot more, leaders, changing. But also this stuff I would present in my monthly or every other month EC meetings. And the leaders got so tired of getting the emails, they would show up to the EC rounding and take care of stuff as it come up, if they could,
Yeah.
because in ATG, when we have a finding in a department, and depending on what it was, it would go to that department leader. If they didn't correct it, then it went to whoever
correct
CNO it, and it comes back to the leadership in the building too. Are they holding these departments accountable to fixing these problems? But there again, I can see where in a bigger facility it could be a little more.
I agree, Matt. Because I know whenever like they have morning thing at Matthews. Everybody, all the leaders come down as a group and get in one big classroom and do the morning huddle. So you see people, you talk, you interact with other leaders. And so they can't just ignore you and not pretend like it's not there. So there is more of I think, a camaraderie rather than PMCs cooked with HVI and COH in the two other buildings. And it's just, I don't think there's a lot of like working togetherness, so
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and it wouldn't, if somebody didn't come to my rounding when I would schedule rounding in the building and I found something, I wouldn't, and it was easy in that building. I'd just go up to their office. I wouldn't send them an email or, they would get the finding when ATG automatically generates that report to them. But I'd go up and chat. I'd just go up and chat with them.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
on more of a personable level, and and you build that relationship in that building with
Yeah.
leaders.
I agree. That's good. It's a good point.
And Casey, if you have any complaints about how Matt teaches, why don't you invite him to one of your classes and then he
Ooh.
could learn from you?
Oh, I know I'm a terrible teacher.
No, no, you are not.
I know I
That's
am.
not true. Okay, we will not get to finish the do study act sections of your homework assignment and group activity. I did hear from some of you that you don't have the same exposure as the rest of your group to whatever problem you're solving. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, you're welcome to do that to finish this assignment. You can also work with Tyrone and Dave, your mentor. There are other resources available to you, so that way you can complete that activity. You don't feel like you're having to do that in a vacuum.
Okay, so we're now going into displaying data. And can you move to the next screen, Lindsay? Thanks. All right, so the use of process maps to visualize steps in a complex process. This is where we're really diving in now to say, okay, truly, what is this process? What does it look like from that viewpoint? So as we go through here, we want to understand the complex processes. We want to identify the bottlenecks and inefficiencies. We want to standardize the procedure, want to train and onboard that we talk about, and then we want to communicate with the stakeholders, the outcome. Okay. As we go through, remember the Pareto principles and fishbone examples. We're now taking this to the next step. And primarily what we're looking at here is we're using flow charts and a lot of other tools that's available to us to take on these initiatives. So to the left side, you just see some of the diagrams, the shapes and things, and that is used through flow charts and everything. And here in the middle, it talks about like the oval that we see here. It's used for the start and end point. The rectangular are action taken. The diamond indicate decision making. The arrow, which I don't see, but the arrow direction flow from that viewpoint, what flow you're going through, and then the paragraph, that's data input and output, and then the circle indicate the connector. Okay.
Dave has his hand raised.
No, I hit the button. I don't know what I done.
I was like, that is so polite of you as an instructor.
All right, so and here is just where we're going to show. So this is the graphical portion of it. So there's some charts that are beneficial to displaying the visual. And so as we go down this, these are the examples. They got the Pareto chart, the run chart, scatter diagram, box plot, and control chart. And so these next few slides are going to go through those.
Okay. So starting with the Pareto chart, this is an example. This one was used for the chiller maintenance expenses. To the left side, you see that each of the components that have been identified represent a bar from that viewpoint, and then the line kind of charts out that activity throughout the functions of it.
So the control chart, now this one, I think everybody probably sees quite often, actually. This is something very similar you'd use with your building management system, mapping out temperature, humidity, generally in that function. So this is very usable and one we use quite often.
Okay. Okay, where are we? Okay. We talked earlier, looked briefly about overprocessing when displaying data, and this is kind of what this is focusing on. It is important to avoid overprocessing the MUDA by presenting only the most relevant and essential information that we're addressing. Eliminate unnecessary embellishments, overly complex charts. We want to be careful with that. And when presenting your data in the C-suite, the focus should be on action insights only.
Okay, third objective, continuous improvement culture. So let's go down. So process improvement actually never stops. So this is just a strategy. When you use this tool, it's very important. It's something that you never give up. So 4 strategies to foster continuous improvement include, so you're reducing variation in process, you're reducing waste, which can be steps or resources, equipping people, validating and monitoring continuously.
Okay, well, we're looking at we want to reduce our variations, so consistently high quality outcome is achieved by minimizing our variations in the processes. So to identify the root causes and the variables and implement standardized procedures that ensure consistent performance. So some of the tools we talk about, use tools like the control charts, the statistical analysts to monitor and manage your process effectively.
Okay, removing waste. So we've talked about this. I think I think everybody's got a pretty good handle on what that is. So this is just kind of reiterating what that looks like. So unnecessary steps, overproduction, excess inventory, and inefficiencies, using these lean principles and to simplify workflows, reduce cost, and increase overall efficiency. These are all wastes that we've identified and actually talked quite a bit about today. So I think we're pretty well defined on our waste.
Okay, equip people. We talked a lot about this in our process review, the PO, but we want to make sure that we're engaging the right people, our team members, our customers. So empowering employees with the right skills, the tools and knowledge is very important as we go through the exercise. Providing ongoing training, we talked about that, foster a culture and collaboration, and ensure open communications because we're seeking feedback. We want their ideas, we want their thinking so that helps us when we really dive into troubleshoot and see where we can get the best results. So when staff members are equipped and motivated, they are most likely to contribute innovative ideas and improvements to the process.
So continuously monitor and validate. So kind of just reiterating what we just got done talking about is about follow-up and doing that. So just to highlight on a couple of these, establish mechanisms to maintain the gains. So this is basically how do you continue and you don't let your wins go. You know what? When you work hard and you do a process and you start to make traction, you have to continually validate it and monitor it. So you integrate these strategies and the processes and you make them part of your everyday activities.
Okay, so change management, that's going to be another component that we run into when we talk about process improvements. And I just want to echo this at this point. One of the books that I read that is outstanding when it comes to change management is Who Moved My Cheese from that viewpoint, and it's been a very effective. But anytime we talk about change management, it's going to impact each individual in a different way from that viewpoint. So when we go through and we want to make change management, we need to make sure some key elements that we are focusing on. We want to make sure that we're clear communicating. We want to make sure that we're giving them the proper training and support. We want to make sure that our stakeholders' engagement, that they are visible, that they're displaying, that they're buying into what and agreeing to it. And feedback loops, that's important. What's not potentially working. What we want to hear that feedback, that positive feedback, and then cultural alignment, that making sure that we're aligned to the way the process is supposed to operate.
Okay, for everyone that's still on, at 3 o'clock, you're going to get an email from me asking you to participate in a survey. We would like feedback. This is something that we're going to start doing moving forward. I'm really curious about what is working so far, and are we like meeting your need in professional development? And if we're not, let's talk about it so we can get back on track to your expectations. So after each class, you will get a survey like what you will today. I timed it. It takes 2 minutes to complete. There are questions about the instructors, me, the class itself, the discussion, the activities. It's anonymous. So we'll just look at the data for what it is. Thank you for taking the time to do that so that we can better serve you. I will send out a separate survey, since we haven't done this so far, about the program as a whole. So don't feel like you need to capture all of your feedback into this one survey. The survey is meant to be about this process improvement class. I'll send out something else that's just collecting data, really to answer 3 questions. What are we doing now that we should continue doing? What are we doing now that we need to stop doing? Please say something besides homework. Thank you so much. And then what are we not doing that we need to start doing? So just feedback from that lens would be really appreciated so we can continue to improve this training. And then Tyrone and Dave, if you can just hang on for a few minutes after everyone is off. Tyrone, you mentioned Move My Cheese. I just listened to that a couple months ago. I agree. I've heard about it for, I don't know, 15 years, and I finally got around to listening to it. And it's really short, little listen, short book to read, and it's told in the form of a story. So it goes by really quickly, and it's very effective at making its point in change management.
Yeah.
This is another great book, The Goal. It talks about OKRs. You know, we talked about OKRs during that Managing with Metrics class. This book was really, really helpful in understanding bottlenecks. So if you feel like you have a broken process that gets stalled and is burdened by bottlenecks, this book is a game changer for that. Good to Great. If you feel like you are trying to change process in a culture that isn't ready to accept that process or take on conflict or diversity of thought, I highly recommend Good to Great, because it demonstrates how to take teams from kind of like being complacent and meeting expectations to meet their potential through change management and process improvement. Great by Choice. Jim Collins is, he also wrote Good to Great. This would be like the second, the sequel for Good to Great. So once you write a Good to Great, I would recommend Great by Choice. And then we'll close it out with some key takeaways, and then everyone will be dismissed. I want to just point out, if you get to your homework, which is that PDSA exercise that you did with your groups today, and you're stuck, I am a resource to you. I am committed to helping you. I'm committed to your success. I know Tyrone and Dave feel the same way, and so does your mentor. So please use us. We want to help you and see you succeed.
Lindsay, along that same line, I know you did record it today.
Right.
Will the team have access to getting that recording if they want to reference back to any of the areas of
They do.
discussion?
Yeah, they do for their own entertainment or learning. At any time, they can go back and see any of the recordings. They are in the learning management system.
Okay, all right.
All right, any closing thoughts or questions before we dismiss today?
I guess I just asked the question overall, guys, was it worth the time to go through these sessions? Do you see potentially how you could truly use this in our daily operation? Because from the supply chain perspective, supporting you as plant engineering, I'm using these tools pretty regularly.
Yes, I definitely think it was worth time today. Picked up on some things that I think I'll use going forward.
Yeah.
You know, some of the processes and stuff that maybe, but you don't know exactly what it's called. So
Yeah,
that's helpful too. So yeah, I appreciate you guys today.
okay,
Yeah. So, and I just want to make a comment because there's a lot of tools here. So
yeah,
I think we got exposed to a lot more than we're gonna use because
absolutely.
there's so many different things here and so much stuff. So, you know, we talked about it in the class when we were trying to putting this together, and I think, you know, the team really thought that it was important to get exposed to a little bit of everything because things change, you know, there's other tools out there, there's always something else. So it was probably more than we're gonna use, but you know, moving forward, you know, I think BDSA was, you know, commonly used. It's a lot. It's simple. So, you know, starting out simple, but this exposure is really good because there is a lot of tools out there. And, you know, the possibility is you never know what Navant's going to do tomorrow.
Yeah. And I have to echo with David. Lindsay, I have to commend you and Dolores for an excellent job putting the material together. When I went after my Six Sigma, it was like a 2-week training session. You know, we crammed a lot into today's one session. So I was very impressed that we was able to really deliver and hopefully delivered the key messages that we wanted to share with you all.
Thank you. I'll pass that feedback on to Dolores. She'll appreciate hearing that.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your participation today. Let us know how we can help as you finish out your homework assignments. Then Dave and Tyrone, I'll take 5 minutes or less to talk to
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, he left.
Dave,
Do you have any feedback on how it went or anything that we could do differently?
I thought the material, the way it was laid out was great. I mean, it flowed very well.